That's all in the past. Let's not talk about it, Blaine said seriously. No. Zoe's eyes immediately turned red. She placed her hand over his where he held her head, telling him anxiously, "You're afraid I'll worry." "Be good," he coaxed her. Blaine didn't want to talk about the time he'd spent buried in the ruins of an apartment building. Those long, dark days were something he would remember for the rest of his life. He didn't want to talk about the frustration of facing death and not being able to do anything about it. He had realized that life was so fragile that it could be taken away at any moment, and that there was ultimately nothing anyone could do to escape one's fate. Blaine had nothing to eat and no water, and could only rely on his willpower to persevere. Until a miracle happened. Zoe returned his gaze. She could see the traces of pain in Blaine's eyes, the pain he was trying to mask for her benefit, and she let her questions go. "All right, I won't ask." Zoe nodded obediently and tightened her grip on his large hand. Blaine smiled. "I will tell you how I survived, though." "How?" Zoe asked in surprise. "I wasn't alone. I was trapped with an older man in his 60s who told me how much he missed his wife. She died of breast cancer 10 years ago, still relatively young, and he wished they'd had more time together. His wife had been his first love and soulmate, but they had broken up before finding their way back to one another. The man regretted the time he'd lost with her during those years apart now that she was gone. He asked me about my first love, and I told him our story. Before I finished, we were rescued. As they were carrying him out on a stretcher, the man was still asking me about my love story. He wanted to know how the story ended." As he said this, Blaine raised his eyebrows slightly. He gazed into Zoe's misty eyes and asked her, "What kind of ending do you think I should tell him?" Zoe's heart ached. Her tears were on the verge of spilling out, and she closed her burning eyes to avoid Blaine's intense gaze. She didn't dare look at him. She knew what he meant. Zoe's answer was the end of his story. Her evasion and silence gave Blaine the answer he didn't want to hear. With much difficulty, he sat up from Zoe's body. "You should sleep more. It's the weekend." Blaine's voice was much cooler compared to the warmth of his earlier tone. Zoe watched Blaine wince as he sat up and asked anxiously, "Are you hurt? Why didn't you say anything? Where were you injured? Let me see it." Zoe started to rise to check on his wounds, but he held her down. "Don't move." When Zoe heard this, she became even more nervous. "No, let me see it. Let me help you." Blaine took her hand, not allowing her to move. His sexy mouth hooked into an evil smile. "You really want to see it?" "Yes." "All right, then." Zoe blinked and stammered. What are you doing?" "Showing you my wound. You asked to see it, didn't you? It's still ready and willing, especially after a 2-week break." Zoe quickly looked away and held her hand out in front of her, motioning for him to stop. "No, don't take it out. Stop. I've changed my mind. I don't need to see it anymore." Blaine laughed out loud as he retracted his hand from the waist of his pants. Zoe couldn't help but feel relieved, but she also wanted to smack the smile off Blaine's laughing face for teasing her like that. "You go back to sleep. I'll shower first." Blaine stood, still chuckling, and headed for the bathroom after instructing her to rest. His pace was rather slow. He obviously feared that he would aggravate his wound. His real injury was on his back. Because he had been buried in rubble for 5 days, his wound had become infected and had festered. Blaine didn't want Zoe to see him like that, knowing she would worry too much. Zoe quickly threw off the blanket and got up. "Let me help you." Blaine accepted Zoe's assistance. He put one arm around her shoulders and even pressed all his weight onto her body. He lowered his head and looked at her, revealing a teasing smile. "Is this okay?" "Blaine, how much do you weigh exactly?" Zoe resentfully asked, panting a bit from exertion. "Not much, only twice as much as you." Blaine subtly moved his body a little away from Zoe to help her. "Zoe, you have to put some weight on. You need to be stronger. I'm worried when we do it, I might break your little body in two." Blaine's blunt words flustered Zoe, and she angrily swatted his hand away in embarrassment. How can someone who looks so noble be so crude? Faced with Zoe's accusation, Blaine chuckled softly and didn't even deny it. Instead, he suddenly grabbed Zoe by the waist and lifted her onto the bathroom counter. Zoe was exasperated. "What are you doing? First you're hobbling around like you're seriously injured, and now you're so energetic. Are you pretending?" "I'm just putting you to work. You wanted to help me." Blaine hugged Zoe's waist with one arm and supported himself on the sink with the other hand. He tilted his face towards Zoe and said coolly, "You're going to help me shave." "Huh?" Zoe looked at him in surprise, as she clearly felt her heart skipping a beat. "I can't do that. I've never, shaved a man before." Zoe shyly refused. Blaine smiled at her statement. He was glad that Zoe had never done this for Matthew before. "Even better," he said out loud. "It's about time you learned." He took the shaving cream, handed it to Zoe, and placed his razor in her other hand. Since she was already in position, Zoe knew it would seem a bit unreasonable if she refused him again. She opened the can of shaving cream and tentatively sprayed some into her hand. She then patted it onto Blaine's stubble and lifted his razor. "Am I doing it right?" "Yes." Blaine praised her. "Now, just don't accidentally slit my throat with that razor and you'll get a gold star."
Hi, Zoe here. If you are wondering what happens next, then download the Pocket FM app and listen to the exciting episodes of Rekindled Heartache now.